Yeah.
Claire?
Yes. Hello, Vincent.
Oh no, why isn't this coming through on my... Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I don't know why this isn't coming through. Hold on.
Okay.
Why isn't this... Hold on.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, there we go. I almost want to show, well, did you know that Nation of Islam and Scientology are working together now?
No, tell me more.
Louis Farrakhan, let me just get up the article so I know exactly. Okay, it's called it's from the Daily Beast, so it's at least, credible. And Louis Farrakhan seems to have announced that the Nation of Islam will be training and offering Dianetics and e-meter readings. And interesting. And that well, it doesn't exactly remind me of the same thing, but do you remember the Blackburn cult with Otis May Blackburn?
Yes.
Otis Blackburn. The Blackburn cult, the one who was in Los Angeles and she, let people die and kind of semi-killed people and made people go missing. One of her strategies is when people would get fed up with her cult, and they would start their own break-off cults, she would kind of like allow that and kind of try to incorporate it into her ideology. And this reminds me also of Beyondism. Somebody's here. I offered up the link. It's probably kept. Who's the real clerical?
Oh, it must be Pebble.
Hello, it is me, real clerical. It's the real clerical. Hello, Vincent.
Okay.
This woman is pretending to be me. This woman has been pretending to be me for 9 years. 9 years, Vincent.
Okay, can you hold on 1 second? Let me just finish very quickly, then you can talk.
Okay.
The point is that with Beyondism is that it's Beyondist in its approach in that the Nation of Islam is appropriating a practice, e-reader meeting and Dianetics, from another cult in order to make theirs better and more attractive. And so I just think that it's an interesting development that two religious cults that are so diverse from each other and different from each other would do that. Now, the real clerical, what do you have to say? This must be Pebble Muncher. You have a new...
It's me, real clerical. It's me, the real clerical. I want to know why this woman pretend to be me.
Of course, it's Pebble Muncher who is obsessed
No, it's me.
with me and has even bought my book.
It's me, real clerical. I want to know why you pretend to be me, fake clerical. Why?
Okay.
Tell me about your book.
What book? Yeah.
My book, Secular Quranism. You can tell it's me because it's written in Chinese, English. Very, very bad spelling and very bad grammatical error in Chinese. I'm the real clerical,
Would you
not
like
the
to
fake
read
one.
a bit for us?
Would I like to read my book? No, you can buy it on Amazon. Give me money. I want money. You pay me.
Stop. Okay, enough. So
you pay me. You pay me money. You pretend to be me. You pretend to be me for 9 years. Fake clerical. Now you have nothing to say to me. You gonna sit there in silence?
Oh my God.
I'm only
Well-
talking
You're
to
ashamed.
Vincent.
You should be
Yes.
ashamed of yourself.
Okay. Do you have anything? Wait, okay. Can we look? I mean, I don't mind some frivolity coming in here, but okay, if you are the real Claire Call, what is your opinion about Nation of Islam and Scientology working together? You can make it funny, but it also has to be information. It has to be infotainment. Don't just be silly. Like, give like
Well,
a real.
I don't know about that. All I know is that everyone should be secular Quranist. I don't know what secular Quranism is, but everyone should be it. You can read my book, 109 pages of nonsense. £5 on Amazon. You buy my
Okay,
book?
am I gonna have to throw you off? Do you have
You
anything to say about Scientology and the Nation of Islam?
you buy my
I keep
book,
asking,
yeah?
I keep asking him to cite a
You buy
single
book?
sentence he couldn't agree with, and he couldn't. I was so happy in our last stream. That
I
also
rem-
mentioned you.
I removed him. He has
No,
nothing to add. You
no.
know, he has nothing intelligent to add to the debate, so I'm just pretty much done with him. But you know, it's beyond this in that they're absorbing another cult's practices, which I would endorse. And though in this, I think it works against them. Don't you think involving yourself with Scientology is going to make you look like rubbish, like outer space people?
Well, I think they're just desperate. I mean, I suppose people would accuse me of being desperate if I agreed to secular Quranism with beyondist characteristics,
What about with
or
Scientologists?
beyondism with secular Quranist characteristics. But I suppose we can talk about that if you want, and think of
Yeah,
what
no,
it
I
might
don't
be
mind.
like.
I would allow. Beyondism would allow some people to be secular Quranists, but it wouldn't. It would be against it spreading to every single nation unless it like would, or they would allow other people to steal Quranist principles. But I don't think that they wouldn't promote everyone being like 100% secular Quranist. I mean, I don't think it would promote
Yeah.
that. But what about secular Quranists with Scientologist characteristics? Would you mind getting involved with Scientology?
Well, I wouldn't be able to stop them from adopting it, I suppose. But can you imagine what it might be like?
Well, I'm sure it wouldn't. I'm sure that it would be like self-help and aliens meets the Quran, which would just be outrageous and crazy and scary. I mean, especially, Scientology promoting whippings and stuff like that. I don't know what to think about all
I mean,
that.
what is Scientology anyway? I mean, I know that, okay, that they're well known for doing their, psychometric tests? That's
Yeah,
what they're good for, right? And
yes.
then, okay, maybe I don't know enough about Scientology to even imagine what it might be like. Maybe we can talk about Scientology. So,
Yeah, Scientology, they do psychometric tests, but here, let's just look up Wikipedia Scientology. Yeah, so the name of this is, oh my God, I'm sure that this is like 1,000 pages long because there's a lot about Scientology. Oh, of course it is. I mean, I'm just skimming through this and this is a long article.
anyway, they believe, okay, we want belief and practices, which isn't too long, fortunately.
Okay, go ahead. Do you want to read it?
I'm going to read the main article, Scientology Beliefs and Practices. Okay, I'm just going to read practices because...
No, read beliefs. Beliefs are more, well, I mean,
Okay.
ooh, they believe in a physical universe? Ooh.
Okay. Thetan. I don't even know what Thetan is. In Scientology, the concept of the thetan is similar to the concept of self or the spirit or soul as found in several belief systems. The term is derived from the Greek letter theta, which in Scientology beliefs represents the source of life or life itself. In Scientology, it is believed that it is the thetan, not the central nervous system, which commands a body. Thetan has been described as a thetan is an immortal spiritual being, the human soul, the being who is the individual and who handles and lives in the body. A thetan is not a thing. A thetan is the creator of things. A thetan is the person himself, not his body or his name, the physical nervous, his mind, or anything else, that which is aware of being aware, the identity which is the individual. I think it just means a soul, but said in a Scientologist way.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hubbard taught that there were three parts of man: the spirit, mind, and body. The first of these is a person's true inner self, a theta being or thetan. While the thetan is akin to the idea of soul or spirit found in other traditions, Hubbard avoided terms like soul or spirit because of their cultural baggage. Hubbard stated that the thetan is a person, you are you in a body. According to Hubbard, the thetan uses the mind as a means of controlling the body. Scientology teaches that the thetan usually resides within the human skull but can leave the body, either remaining in close contact with it or being separated altogether. According to Scientology, a person's thetan has existed for trillions of years. They were all those cells, having lived countless lifetimes, long before entering a physical body it may now inhabit in their original form. The thetans were simply energy, separate from the physical universe. Each thetan had its own home universe, and it was through the collision of these that the physical meshed universe emerged, MEST. Once MEST was created, Scientology teaches the thetans. Once MEST was created, Scientology teaches the thetan began experimenting with human form, ultimately losing knowledge of their origins and becoming trapped in physical bodies. Scientology also maintains that a series of universal incidents have undermined the thetans' ability to recall their origins. Hubbard taught that thetans brought the material universe into being for their own pleasure, that the universe has no independent reality but derives its apparent reality from the fact that thetans agree it exists.
Yeah,
So
this is a little
it's a
bit.
bit boring.
This is yeah, no, this is. But I was looking at.
Okay, we can go to practices.
Okay, what? Okay, maybe is that their laws?
Well, I don't know.
Contracts and
They talk about auditing, and I guess psychotherapy, and I guess that's what they do. Maybe you want to read that.
the central practice of Scientology is an activity known as auditing central practice, which seeks to elevate an adherent to the state of clear, one of freedom and from influences of the reactive mind. The practice is one wherein a counselor called an auditor addresses a series of questions to a pre-clear, observes and records the pre-clear's response and acknowledges them. An important element in all forms of auditing is to not suggest answers to the pre-clear or invalidate or degrade what the pre-clear says in response. It is utmost important that the auditor create a truly safe and distraction-free environment for the session. I don't want to read the shit. This is like pre-clear. What is a? There's a Wikipedia on a pre-clear. A patient. I've just become so accustomed to discussing Judaism and Islam and legal systems that none of this really fucking matters to me anymore. Like, I mean, I care about it in so much as maybe I care about their stance on idolatry, and is it idolatry, or does it avoid idolatry, or is it going Noahide? But like these like details of the soul, and I mean, I guess I should care more, but well, they have they
It
do
is
have
a bit boring, and it is a bit theoretical, and it's well complicated, right?
yeah, it's
And boring.
complicated. Physical universe. Hubbard referred to the physical universe as the mess universe, meaning matter, energy, space, and time. In Scientology teachings, the mess universe is separate from the theta universe, which consists of life, spirituality, and thought. Scientology teaches that the mess universe is fabricated through the agreement of the thetans, souls, or spirits, that it exists and is therefore an illusion that is only given reality through the actions of thetans themselves. That's kind of like, what does that even mean? Is only given reality through the actions of thetans themselves. What actions of thetans themselves? Oh, agreements between thetans themselves. So all the thetans are agreeing to make this universe. So Ludendorff said that the universe is not a mystery. It's not a mystery. Or not, it's not an illusion.
Sorry, what isn't an illusion?
Oh, what isn't an illusion? The universe is not an illusion. Rejection of psychology and psychiatry.
But they practice it. It sounds a bit like the Trinity, in that Christians say idolatry and blasphemy is forbidden, but actually practice it themselves. I mean, it's so obvious that Scientologists are using a lot of, psychobabble, and um, it's kind of Freudian, isn't it? The way they talk about, the soul and all that kind of thing.
Here, what about their rejection of psychology and psychiatry? The psychiatric establishment rejected Hubbard's theories in the 1950s. Since then, Hubbard was vehemently opposed to psychiatry and psychology. Scientologists view psychiatry as a barbaric and corrupt profession and consider mental illness a fraud. They allege that psychiatrists were responsible for Holocaust, apartheid, and 9/11. Scientology established the anti-psychiatry lobby group Citizens Commissions on Human Rights, which operates and exhibits psychiatry and industry of death. CCHR has helped legislators draft bills through bills in Florida and Utah failed, which would have made it a crime for school teachers to suggest parents that the child might be suffering from a mental health condition. There's a whole thing on psychology and psychiatry.
Well, I think it seems to be saying that it rejects conventional psychology and psychiatry, and saying that if you want to join our cult, you have to reject all these ideas from conventional psychiatry and psychology. And they'll teach you their kind of psychology and psychiatry. Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, they were infiltrating the National Association of Mental Health in Britain, and they were found out and they were removed because they were trying to change things about mental illness. Tom Cruise. I want to read this one about their stance against psychiatry and psychology. Is it just because? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to read this thing about psychiatry. I also want to read Carol Balazet on psychiatry. That's a lot of where they believe sorcery comes in, is psychiatry. That's like especially sorcery, especially, more so than even just regular drugs. So any kind of drug is sorcery,
Hmm.
according to her. But Christians who don't take it that far just say that psychiatry is sorcery. Psychiatry is sorcery.
Well, any alternative source of perceiving the world would be considered heresy if you're doing this indoctrination thing.
Mm.
Do you want to check it out? Would you like to check out the cult of Scientology?
I did. I went to one of their centers, and they found out who I was and started sending me material, and they found out who I was without my address, and they sent me material, and I got very scared that they found out who I was without my address and started sending me material. They're like Jehovah's Witnesses, they're too aggressive. And I was too aggressive when I was younger with my ideologies because of the way I was raised. And I think it was very damaging to my reputation and to my relationships with people. And and that's why people, people don't like Jehovah's Witnesses. People don't like Scientologists because they're too scary and creepy like that, and you shouldn't be creepy like that. And I was creepy like that because I was raised to be creepy like that, and I'm very upset about that. I feel like it really damaged my life very harshly, and I still suffer with some degree of it, but it's definitely much better now, and I don't know. I don't know. It's just not good.
Well, I like you, Vincent. I mean, I don't find you creepy.
Well, I mean, I could have been overly creepy. I have been creepy about my ideologies before in the way Jehovah's Witnesses are creepy and Scientologists are creepy, and I was just following their
Am I
example.
like that myself? I mean, I try to hold it back.
No, but you're not like invading people's not privacy, but well, to a degree, you're not like invading, you're not like pushing yourself on people the way I used to do. There's a difference.
Mhm.
You just go on YouTube, and I was just very pushy and bringing it up at inappropriate times and all the time, and not just like on my own personal show. And I've even done it recently where I went too far in like pushing something, but I don't really do it anymore as much as I did, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that my message is now getting well known, and I don't need to be so like, oh my God, nobody understands what's going on, and I have to
Mhm.
warn the whole world. I have done a degree of.
Well, I think that the Jehovah's Witnesses are quite good in that they clever in that they invite you to discuss politics, and once you start complaining about the government, you're in really, and they've got you because they're going to be offering you all their solutions, and this is kind of how secular Quranism operates too. Because I would leave people alone until they start talking politics with me. And then I'll say, well, did you know that, all these problems would be solved if you only, adopted it?
Can you hold on 1 second? Hold on 1 second, Claire.
Yes, I'll be here. More people coming. Saigon Green, who came from Facebook because I posted this link to Messenger, and he's here. So what are we going to talk about? I mean, Nation of Islam is just it's okay. Well, I know it's only for black people, so it's racist, and that goes against the tenets of Islam because Islam says you mustn't be racist. We are all God's creatures, and even if you are Arabic, you're not better than non-Arabic speaking people. So the Quran is quite firm on that.
Um, yeah. So, um, um, yeah. Well, I forget what we were talking about, but I tried to talk about something different. That's why we were talking about Nation of Islam and Scientology, and I have to find more cults to discuss all the time. It's there's actually the show we should listen to the next time. Remember, we listened to the Blackburn cult. There's this. What other cult was on there? What other interesting cult? There's there's do you know the Mormons have lots of break off. Oh, I watched that thing on Mormonism by Rabbi Tobias Singer, and he was just very okay, yeah, I got it. Jesus being God is idolatry. But the point is that in Mormonism, it's more nuanced than that. I don't know, they don't believe in the Trinity, but I know they believe that God is immaterial. But like, they believe in the Trinity, but they don't, or I don't know what I forget. I know they're not classified as a Trinitarian church. And I wish he had just addressed that more and it had been more than just like, oh, Jesus is God, which is the same thing as Christianity. I think the question was brought up. I don't think he knows enough about Mormonism to really answer the question in depth. And there are Mormons who promote the Noahide laws and think that they're good and that they're great and that they're, a foundation for civilization and stuff like that, and who call themselves Noahides, but because they don't believe in the Trinity. But I just wish that he had more of a depth in knowledge, understanding of Mormonism, and it's just trying to get people to be more intellectual and think more deeply. Like, I kind of use these cults because I've talked about if I wasn't raised Jehovah's Witness, I wouldn't be into all this stuff so much. I think I would have been a more shallow person. And just okay, you don't have to convert to Jehovah's Witness to have its deepening effects. Just mix it in and make it interesting, make its history controversial and interesting, and draw people into like just disturbia and unusual stuff, and like, okay, their connection with Hitler. And it's interesting the fact that at first they were pro-Hitler. Who's disgusting is Edward Martin. I showed him, whenever you show him a Wikipedia article, he's like, oh god, no, that you can't use that. Wikipedia is actually really good. And
I agree.
just to totally dismiss Wikipedia, so I showed him that Declaration of Facts, which was Joseph Rutherford promoting Hitler or trying to schmooze to Hitler and being anti-Jewish and anti-Catholic and anti-British Empire. And he just totally dismissed that. And he's
Sorry,
like,
who's Rutherford? Can you explain?
Rutherford was the second leader of the Jehovah's Witness movement, and he's the one who actually named them Jehovah's Witness. He changed their names from like International Bible Students or whatever they were called to Jehovah's Witness. And he's actually more responsible for the Jehovah's Witness religion than Charles Taze Russell. And while Russell was very philo-Semitic, Rutherford was much less philo-Semitic, and was even accused of anti-Semitism and was pro-Hitler and did have a home in, I think, Nazi Germany. I think, when did he have that home in Germany? Anyway, he was fond of Germany. And it was only after Hitler rejected him and said, no, we want nothing to do with you. You're just too subversive. And then he turned against Hitler, and then the Jehovah's Witnesses are like, oh, we were persecuted. You were on his side before you were against him. So don't cry persecution. It's just like, they're very big into the fact that they were never into colonialism, and that they had very little race. They did have some racism in their past, but all the Mormons, uh, Seventh Day Adventists have racism. Jehovah's Witnesses have a little racism, but it wasn't like so horrible that it stained into the minds of Black people. And they weren't colonialists, and they were probably all like anti-slavery and stuff like that, since they came up around that time of abolitionism. Mary Baker Eddy of Christian Science was abolitionist. So these new religions kind of like put this as like a little star on their badge that, oh, we're not the Catholic Church. We had no Inquisition. That's why there's so many Black Jehovah's Witnesses, because they consider it to be an anti-colonialist, anti-world imperial, anti-British American, anti-New World Order religion that has less wrongdoings than Protestants, Lutherans, all these different Methodists, mainstream churches. They view them as being less entangled with the world and with the evil powers. And I think that the fact that they're so separated from the political system, which maybe the darker races find to be corrupt, according to them, and have done so much wrong. And so Jehovah's Witnesses have a lot of non-whites. Actually, I would consider in the cities, most are non-whites, like very much non-whites. Even when I was a child in New York City, when it still was very white. So this was 25. Actually, when I was a child, that would have been 35 years ago. New York City was still very white, but the Jehovah's Witnesses were very Black and Latino, but very Black. And everyone would always comment on it and say they're all Black. And it was just it's very common in dark countries, unlike things like Christian Science is growing in Africa, but it didn't catch on anywhere outside of America and Europe and like really white countries. But and I think Mormonism is much slower, though now that's really changed. Mormonism used to be very, very white, but now it's really changing, and there's Mormonism everywhere. And it might be even Rabbi Tovia Singer said it might be the fastest growing denomination of Christianity.
Right. I didn't know he was so close to home.
What do you mean?
I mean, I didn't know this cult leader was. Sorry, what did you say? Maybe I kind of got my wires crossed. What did you just say? Maybe I did say something completely irrelevant.
We were talking about Mormon. We were talking about Rabbi Tovia Singer saying that Mormonism might be the fastest growing denomination of Christianity,
but it's still idolatry.
Yes, it's still idolatry, but not in the way. It just would have been nice if he was a little bit more nuanced, because their idea of Jesus Christ is more nuanced. It's idolatry because God takes physical shape, and actually God took physical shape to actually have sex with Mary, who's really his spirit daughter. So it's kind of like incest, and
the Trinitarians said that the Holy Spirit infused Mary and got her pregnant. Yes, I seem to remember that that's the Trinitarian narrative. Am I wrong?
Um, yes. Who knows? But I don't know why they consider themselves non-Trinitarian.
Well, because they don't believe in the Trinity, but I think the Mormon idea of God having sex with Mary was sort of more literal and more um, well, like sexual intercourse. Well, the Trinitarians say, oh, God didn't really actually put his penis inside her. She was infused with the, Holy Spirit, that kind of thing. Well, Jews would say that it was actually a Roman soldier who had sex with Mary, and the Roman soldier was a father of Jesus. While Muslims say that it's all a silly story that God had a son ever.
Yeah, no, I know. It just would, it's nice for these things to go deeper and to get really deep into it. And I wish I
Well, I mean,
knew.
in a way that, I just get so impatient because it's not that deep. If people just accepted that God forbade idolatry and blasphemy, then you're not supposed to do it. You're not supposed to sort of do it and then deny that you're doing it, you know? And of course, there's all these people who don't believe in God, who thinks they're so stupid, and they can't bring themselves to even care about it. But the point is, if you really did believe in God, then you would have to take the whole thing seriously and accept that God would be annoyed. And it astonishes me that so many people just don't give a damn, even though they claim to be Jews, Christians, and Muslims. They can't even hypothesize that God might exist and not be happy about the idolatry and blasphemy being practiced that he had forbidden. And so it's very easy to expose the hypocrisy of these Jews, Christians, and Muslims.
The hypocrisy of these Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Well, just drop fucking idolatry and stop caring about it.
No,
And
it's useful for me. It's useful for me to call out these religious groups, and they are the most powerful religious groups in the world. Nobody cares about Buddhists or Hindus because everybody, the Western world thinks they're stupid anyway, and of course,
well,
and
that's
China.
changing. I mean, Buddhism and Hinduism have a lot more. I mean, they're not like all powerful, but they have more power in the West now than they used to, especially the fucking Hindus. And they're getting all these converts, and it's really bad. I mean, they're like a growing nuisance. Obviously, I've been reporting on them. They're a growing nuisance, and they do want to, get more power in the world, and they are getting it, and they're getting aggressive, and not that they would do it violently, but they more like want to take over the world through like, you know, attrition of numbers into the Hindu fold, and then kind of like taking over economies and banks, and more of a Jewish way of doing things than a Muslim way of doing things.
Yeah,
Less intrusive. Less. The Hindu way of taking over is less intrusive.
but it's more subversive because we are agreed, aren't we, Vincent, that you would prefer a Muslim takeover to a Hindu takeover if one of them had to be endured?
Well, actually, a Hindu takeover would be more beneficial to the Noahide laws than a Muslim takeover. I mean, um,
How?
a Hindu takeover would be more controlled by the Jews than a Muslim takeover. The Jews would be more in charge, and if it were a Hindu takeover, and a Hindu takeover would less be it would a Hindu takeover is actually a Jewish takeover. It's not really its own takeover, whereas a Muslim takeover would be a Muslim takeover, and Muslims would be more in charge of what was going on, and I don't know which
Can
I
you explain why a Hindu takeover would be more of a Jewish takeover?
well, because they're more agreeable and working with them, and promoting them and on their side and subservient to them. And there are some Muslim scholars that are talking with rabbis, but I mean, no Muslim scholar has gone to the chief rabbi of Israel and said, "May we please get your approval?" You know what I mean? Like, that's only what the Hindus are doing. Muslims haven't taken it that step yet, and I think they will take that step, but I don't think that they're going to, like, be as subservient and to Jerusalem as Hindus would be. I mean, look, uh did we just talk about on this broadcast about, I forget when we talked about this, but those 8 Hindus that got sentenced to death? I don't know if it went through
That
with
was a
it.
different yesterday, I think.
Okay, yeah, 8 Hindus got sentenced to death for spying for Israel, not even their own country. You know, not Muslims. No Muslims get sentenced to death for spying for Israel. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. And, like, how many people spy for a country that's not theirs? You know what I mean? Like, literally, like, how many times have you heard of people spying for, like, another country? Unless it was like the Allies in World War II or something like that. Like, how many people, and especially Israel, and of course it was Israel. Of course they would. No Hindus would be spying for Russia, or maybe they would spy for Russia, but what would Russia want to spy on Arab countries for? Unless it was just general spying that everybody does, because everybody spies on everybody, but everyone spies on everyone. But,
Mhm.
like, to the point that you're going to be sentenced to death, that you whatever you stole, it must have been military stuff. I forget what it was. I think it was something mechanical. I'm pretty sure that they were engineers, and it was some kind of blueprints or something like that. And just of course they were spying for Israel. Of course they were spying for Israel, because that's just, and so they would be much more, uh, they would be much more pliant towards Jews than Muslims would be, who have their own agenda. So, I don't know. Maybe I would prefer a Hindu. I don't know, because a Hindu takeover would be very confusing to white people, because they would get ooh la 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 about you know Hinduism's closeness to white European paganism, but they wouldn't know that these Hindus who are religious are still working with Israel,
Mm.
and, like, it's dangerous. So I don't know. It's a half a dozen. It's a dime, whatever. Six one way, half a dozen another. It doesn't really matter. It's problematic. I would have more expertise fighting a Hindu. Um, I also think it would be more entertaining to fight a Hindu Jewish takeover rather than a purely Muslim takeover. Um, it would be more interesting for me. I think it would be more interesting than just, like, oh God, another Muslim takeover, and just dealing with the Quran, and At least this, and now I'm going to deal with the Talmud and the Vedas and something a little bit more new, unusual, different. Um, I think like, an Israeli Indian takeover would be more interesting than a takeover of Islam. That it might be more dangerous though. What's more dangerous? Is an Islamic takeover more dangerous than a Judeo-Hindu takeover?
Well, I guess we
Uh,
won't know, but I mean, in theory, you would want to be taken over by people with principles, so you can hold them to their principles, whatever they are. But if they have no principles and just make up the rules as they go along, then you will find your dealings with them are very awkward, because then they won't follow any defined set of rules, and they'll make up the rules as they go along, which is basically what got us into trouble in the first place.
it's scary. I mean, I don't know.
That's why we need a moral system.
Well, I think that the Jews, I think it would be smarter to attach the Noahide laws to Hinduism and then use its, you know, seeming openness, its seeming openness to cloak, these universal values. And so it comes in and it seems so open and it seems so diverse and more diverse than Islam is. But it, as long as it's steering you towards the Noahide laws, then you know it's uh it's a slower kill than Islam is. And so they might prefer it. I don't know. And Duvid was saying they're preferring it because the Hindus are actually better to the Jews than the Muslims, and he says that negates the hierarchy of your hierarchy of saying that he's saying that Islam is more aggressive towards Jews than Hindus, so they have lowered their status as Noahides.
Hmm. But I mean, I just don't see how you can operate without having rules, a defined, finite set of rules.
Well, they would with the Noahide laws. They would I mean, as long as they're, starting to agree to that, then they would have finite rules and just not as many as they wouldn't, they would just make up, the Quran rules of, helping orphans and all this other kind of stuff. They would just come up with that on their own, but, and they would use their own Hindu principles then at that point. There's charity in Hinduism and there's everything like that. It's just not a central rule book, but I mean, all the recipe is there, and it's just a little bit more kind of like you know an idea or a suggestion rather than you have to pay 20% flat tax for charity, or that it's not a religious law, but it could be like a secular law. I mean, it could be just like, secular.
Yeah, that was what I was planning anyway. And I was basically saying, if you're low wage, you don't pay the 20% flat rate income tax. Only if you're middle waged or high, middle income or high income. So, I mean, there are financial incentives to support secular Quranism. And they're easy to sell because, the kind of already there, people can look it up. It's not something they think I've just made up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, yeah, just find steal ideas from the Quran and just use them, and but I mean, like I said, it's very like not elaborate. This is not like some kind of like elaborate legal system. I mean, and like I
It doesn't have
said,
to be elaborate. It just has to be understood. So you can say it in one sentence to people and they understand. If you know, there's no point, writing a textbook about it because people won't read it. They'll
I
just
know,
think you're
but like,
crazy.
certain of it is just kind of like, what, it's not exactly a dowry law they have. What is that? What is that with the wife and the money and giving her the money and,
Well, is this the Muslim one or the? I mean, dowries are well, the Hindus, you basically pay someone to marry your
I know,
daughter.
but what is the thing in Islam? There is
It's
about
called a
money,
nikah.
money and marriage and divorce and money and,
Well,
more money.
okay. If you think of it as of the engagement ring as a kind of booking fee, then you'll understand. It's basically the man saying, I'm giving you this ring. It shows that I want to marry you. It's a booking fee, and will you marry me? And then she accepts, and then, then the deal goes through because the woman needs to know that a man is committed enough to her to give her this wedding ring. Do you understand? I mean, that's how it used to work.
Yeah.
Or a man could be, stringing all these women around saying, I'll marry you, and you, and you, and you, and it's only through the gifting of an engagement ring that the woman knows he's serious. Because he's not going to buy, 5 engagement rings uh, just to string them along. All these traditions, have a practical purpose. Now, the nikah. Okay, I'm not really sure, but I mean, I understand the nikah as a marriage contract. So they're supposed to agree to the marriage contract and then marry, and then say, oh, these people that we invited to a meal, they saw us agreeing to our contract, and the wedding guests are the witnesses, so they can say we were at this party, we saw this couple, and that was how it had to be witnessed. But obviously, if you get married, you are changing your legal status, and it's
Claire,
intended to do. Oh, you have to go.
yeah, I have to go. We're gonna keep it short today, but thank you for coming on.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.